Hello everyone, and welcome back to Freedom Through Confidence. And today I've got a slightly different video for you because in the past these videos have mainly been focused on self-improvement, providing good advice on how men can get confident and take control of their lives. But what I wanted to do today was share with you a very powerful exercise on how to start to overcome your social anxiety. And as with most things, this isn't something that I've made up on my own. This is an idea that I learned from someone else. I learned it in a book called The Solution to Social Anxiety by Dr. Aziz Gazipura, who I've spoken about on this channel before and who I'm a massive fan of. And the primary goal for this exercise is to set up almost like a self-development plan for overcoming your social anxiety and creating better levels of confidence in your life. The idea of this exercise is for you to get a handle on what things might scare you, what things might get in the way of you moving forward with improving your confidence, with improving your social skills, and so on and so forth. So the exercise is called the fear hierarchy. So I'm going to be going through this exercise. I've got it pulled up on the screen already and I've got my Word document alongside it, and I'm going to be filling it in for myself as I go along. Now, the reason that I'm doing this for myself and not just sharing it with the channel is because I realized that during lockdown I have allowed myself to regress a lot with my self-improvement. And one of the things that I have allowed myself to regress with is letting my social anxiety get the better of me again. And so I'm going back to basics with my entire self-improvement journey. I'm going back to the things that made me confident before, not because I am not confident now, but rather because I want to build up that foundation to be stronger so that if something like this ever happens again, it won't be knocked so easily. So I'm going to be filling out this fear hierarchy with you, and I'd love for you to follow along. The link to the exercise is going to be in the description, and I really hope that this is going to be as powerful as an exercise for you as it has been for me in the past and how it is going to be for me now. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the idea behind the exercise is pretty straightforward. As you can see on the screen right now, you have got some social situations that you might find yourself in over the course of a week, a month, a year. And what you need to do is go through these statements one by one and rank them in terms of what scares you, and you want to rank them from 1 to 10. What makes you the most anxious? Now, the best way to do this is to actually imagine yourself in these scenarios and ask yourself, well, what would I do? How would I feel? And try to imagine it in as vivid detail as possible. And so as I'm going through this, I will give you my thought process of what's going on in my mind as I fill this out, because I feel like that will be helpful for you when it comes to doing this exercise on your own. So let's jump right into this. Okay, situation number 1. How would I feel going to a party? How would I feel going to a party or social gathering where I know most people? So for me, I would say this would be about a 5. Like it probably wouldn't bother me too much. I'm typically quite a social person. I'm not hugely outgoing, but I find it pretty easy to get along with people that I know okay. So I'm going to say that this one is a 5. Okay, so the second one, going to a party where you know almost no one. Now, my first instinct with this is to give it a 4. And you're going to think to yourself, well, why on earth would you give it a 4? You've just put going to a party with people that you mostly know as a 5. So how could this possibly be a 4? And there's a good reason for that, because that was the first impression that came into my mind. And the reason why it came into my mind as a 4 is because this is typically a situation that I would actually try to avoid. I don't like going to parties where I know basically no one. And the main reason why is because of the sense of social anxiety that still remains in my life. So because I would typically avoid that situation, it doesn't really bring up that much feelings of anxiety for me. So in this case, I would actually want to imagine what it would be like, how I would feel if I went to a party. Like if I went to a party and it was worst case scenario, I went there, I didn't know anyone, I was just kind of stood at the drinks table, holding my drink to my chest, trying to avoid eye contact with people, thinking, oh my God, when can I leave? This is so awkward, people are staring at me. And when I start to think about it like that, the true score comes up. In this case, this would probably be about a 7 or an 8. I'm going to give it an 8 just for the sake of it. Okay, number 3, giving a prepared presentation to a group of people. Very, very easy for me. It's not, I did this as a job for like 2 years, so I'm going to say that is a 3. Another thing, you're going to notice that I've blanked out 2 and 1 down here, and that is because if anything is going in 2 or 1, then it probably never bothered you in the first place. If something is a 2 or a 1 in terms of social anxiety, you can feel free to move past that because they don't really matter that much. It's just something that you might feel a little bit weird about sometimes, but ultimately it's no problem. Speaking spontaneously in front of a group of people, I would probably give this about a 5 as well, because speaking in front of people is pretty easy for me. I don't mind it, it's fine, but there would be a lot of nerves going up and just speaking in front of a group of people where I didn't really know that I was going to be giving a speech. Like if I went to a meeting and my boss was suddenly like, and now Ben's going to take over, like that would probably bump me up to about a 5. Okay, eating alone in public doesn't bother me, do it all the time, it's no problem. Going to the movie theater alone, again, doesn't bother me at all, so I'm not even going to put it on there because again, this is something that I do sometimes. Obviously not in the last year because of lockdown and stuff, but yeah, I actually really do enjoy going to the movies on my own, especially if it's like a really, really trashy film. Like I'll go and see like a Transformers film or a Fast and Furious film on my own, because who wants to burden their friends with that kind of nonsense? Calling someone you don't know very well. Okay, so this is a weird one. So if it was like for work, for example, if I felt that I had a justified reason to call them, I would probably give it like a 3 or a 4, because in that case it's just something that has to be done. But let's imagine it as a worst case scenario. I have got the number of a girl that I just met in the street and I'm calling her to set up a date. That would bump it up. That would bump it up to like maybe a 7 or so. So I am going to put this in 7. Okay, approaching an attractive stranger to start a conversation. I don't even need to think about that. That is still for me a 10. Just walking up to a random attractive stranger still gets me. Approaching several attractive strangers, unfortunately there is no 11 on the list, so this has got to go in 10 as well. At this point you're probably thinking, why on earth am I following this guy for confidence advice? He can't even walk up to strangers in the street and ask them out. Yeah, but it's all a journey, and part of this channel is sharing how far I've come with my journey as well and moving forward. And I'm not going to pretend to be perfect. I'm not going to pretend that I go to the club every weekend and come out of it with 12 Ukrainian models numbers and 3 of them going back to my flat with me. Like that's not me. One of the big things about this channel is I want to be honest, and yeah, this is something that I suck at. And I'm going to be working on it on this channel over the course of the next year. Meeting someone new. Okay, yeah, meeting someone new is not too much of a problem. In fact, I kind of enjoy it, so let's put it in 4. Next page. You thought it was over. No, sir. There are 3 pages. Speaking up in a group of people. Okay, so speaking up in a group of people, I'm going to give that about a 5 as well, because it's something that I've actually gotten pretty good at, but I'll still get nervous about it before I do it. Dancing while sober. This is kind of contextual for me. My first thought is to put it at 6, which is where I think I actually am going to put it, because I don't mind dancing while sober. In fact, I kind of enjoy it because there's a big part of me that does love to be the center of attention, but there are certain situations where I would avoid it. So I'll put it at a 6, even though probably most of the time it would be like a 5 or a 4. Having a conversation with someone that I don't know very well, I find that pretty easy now, so that's going to go to a 4. Urinating in a public bathroom. I've never had a problem with that. That's absolutely fine. As long as, you know, we maintain proper bathroom etiquette, no checkmating, things like that, and then everything's fine. Being the center of attention. I've absolutely no problem with that. I kind of like that, so that's not even going on the list. Disagreeing with someone that I don't know very well. A lot of the times I do try to avoid disagreeing with people that I don't know very well. I try to make jokes instead because that tends to lighten the mood, but that's just avoidance. So I'm going to stick that at number 5. Flirting with someone you find attractive. Actually, find that a little bit easier than I do the other stuff. So I'm going to put that at an 8. The same as going to a party. Oh, actually, yeah. I'm going to put that as an 8 still. Letting someone know that you're interested in them sexually. Oh, well, that's pretty much more or less the same as flirting, isn't it? Complimenting a stranger. This is actually something that I've wanted to do for ages. Just do an experiment where I just go and compliment like 100 strangers just to see what will happen. Because again, I'm pretty okay with dealing with the general public, and I'd love to see how they'd react and how I'd react. So I'm going to put that at. I'm going to put that as a 5. That's going as a 5. 5 is actually looking a little chunky. Asking someone you find attractive out for a date. I'm going to put that as an 8 as well. And you might be noticing a lovely little pattern emerging right up here at the top, that a big part of the confidence that I need to work on is around dating, talking to people that I find attractive, asking them out, getting their number, walking over and just talking to attractive strangers, things like that. So this is something that I kind of knew. No, this is something that I definitely knew already, and it's something that I'm going to be working on. Directly expressing anger to the person you're upset with. Oh, this is going to go at 5 as well, because it's something that, like, in the past it probably would have been like a 7, because I actively avoided telling people whenever I was angry, but now I'm a little bit more okay most of the time. In fact, I'm going to put it at a 6. I'm going to put it as a 6 because I feel like that would be a little bit more honest. Chatting with the cashier at a supermarket, most of the time no problem, but I'll put that in as a 3 because, yeah, sometimes you do get intimidating cashiers and you're like, oh, maybe I'll avoid talking to them. But it's really just a judgment on my part when that happens, so I'm going to put that as a 3, and that'll be something that I work on. Okay, making eye contact with a stranger on the street. I'm going to put this as a 3 because, again, it doesn't typically bother me, but it is something that I have started to get out of the practice of it. And it's one of the ways that I initially started to boost my confidence, was just going around and walking and trying to make as much eye contact with strangers as possible just to see what would happen. And everything turned out all right. But it's something I do need to get back into the habit of, talking to just random people. It's always good for your confidence. Talking with an elderly person out in public, bus, store, etc. Let's put that as about a 4. Asking a store clerk for help with something, I'll put that as a 4 as well, because most of the time it doesn't bother me, but I think that might be because sometimes I actively avoid doing it, and instead I'll just wander around a store until I figure it out for myself. But we'll put that as a 4. Returning an item to a store, no problem typically, but we'll put that as a 3. And talking with someone you know very well, okay, no problem at all, so that's not even going to go on the list. Okay, so at this point I have finished off my fear hierarchy. That's all completed now. You can see that on the screen. In fact, I'll open it up full screen. There we go. So that's basically my fear hierarchy. Nothing actually ended up in 9. So probably once this video is done, I will go through this and just make sure this is exactly where I want everything to be, because it's a bit weird that stuff would just skip up from being like, yep, I would probably very much avoid it at 8 to 10, which is I would rather die, and nothing in between. So I'll probably reevaluate this list a little bit, but you might be asking yourself, well, now what? Well, now the real work begins, because the idea is that you start with the stuff at the bottom and you treat it like an experiment. You don't go out there to have some kind of massive result. You go and you just see what happens. So you start with returning an item to a store and it goes pretty well, or maybe it feels awkward, or maybe the person's not happy, but the point is you go and you do it and you walk out of it alive. No one kills you, no one comes after you with a baseball bat, everything is absolutely fine. And so you do it again and the same thing happens. It's nothing bad happens, and you do it again and again, and eventually you think, yeah, okay, this is absolutely fine, I've got no problem with this. So you move on to the next one, making eye contact with a stranger on the street, and you go and you do this for like 100, 200 people, and yeah, occasionally you get the odd weird look, but 99% of the time people just either look away or they smile back, and then you start to realize, oh well, actually, yeah, okay, nothing bad happened there either. Because even though these are situations that you might have feared in the past, by exposing yourself to them, you're proving that basically it's no problem and you can handle it, and you can handle it. And you eventually go all the way up to your 10s, but you do this at your own pace. You do this when you're ready. You don't just try to whip through the list as quickly as possible, because otherwise there's no point. You have to treat it like an experiment. You're just going in to see what's going to happen. So over the next few months, I'm going to be working on this, giving you updates on the fear hierarchy, how it's going, what's happening, and I'm also going to be adding stuff onto here as it comes to my mind as well, situations that I would feel anxious addressing. And yeah, we're just going to see what happens with that, and I'll give you updates on my level of confidence, how it feels, and to hopefully give you the encouragement to go and try this on your own as well. So that's it for the first part in this installment of a series that hasn't got a name yet, tackling my fears, dealing with my fears, things like that. If you've got any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section down below. Any thoughts, anything like that. Leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if this is the kind of content that you're interested in. But otherwise, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos here on this channel and during this series very soon.